Good to be back with you again. In this lesson, we're going to do a Piedmont style of blues. By the way, that Piedmont, the reason why we call it Piedmont is because of the area of the country that it comes from. Along the east side of the Appalachian Mountains, all the way down to the Atlantic coast, you have a big sloping area there, and that's called the Piedmont. And they actually have Piedmonts in other countries and other regions around the world too. Like for instance, there's a very common area that we talk about now in Italy called Piedmont, which means Piedmont. And same thing, it's the mountains down to the water there in the area. It's a high mountainous area sloping down toward the Mediterranean Ocean. But anyway, in this lesson we're going to do this Piedmont style blues, and that is a ragtime style blues with an alternating bass in the Blind Willie McTell style. Now, Blind Willie McTell had a number of tunes in drop D tuning, and he kind of played a lot of these tunes very similarly. So we're going to put them together into a thing called Blind Willie McTell's drop D fiasco. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off, I think those of you who've been playing the Rolling E blues, you'll like this. You're going to find this easy. In some ways it's even easier than the Rolling E blues. Okay, so what we're going to actually do is we're going to start off with a drop D tuning. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your E and tune it down to a D. Now, the way you do that is you take this 6th string and tune it down until it is an octave lower than the 4th string. So just use your 4th string. For instance, if I tune this back up here to E, then all I have to do is bring it down till it's exactly an octave lower. And you kind of have to mess with it for just a little bit, make sure it's absolutely perfect, you know. But once you get that, that's your drop D tuning. As we look at this tune, what we're going to do is we're going to see basically that there's, that there are really only 3 chords, and which are D, G, and A, and variations from D, G, and A. And the song does some unusual things. It doesn't have a turnaround or your typical 5-chord to 4-chord turnaround like you have in a lot of blues. It has this little thing that Blind Willie McTell does on a number of his tunes, which is a kind of a double wham, very similar to the double wham we've done in other lessons. And I'll show you what I mean. But let's get started off with the music first. So we're going to form a D major chord here. And what we're going to do is we're going to alternate our bass between the 6th and the 4th string for the D chord. Again, try to mount your little finger on the top of the guitar so you can do this. So that's going to be your alternating bass for D. And what we're going to do is our first technique will be pinching the 6th and the 2 together, following through on the 1. So basically, look, my index finger's playing 2 and my 2nd finger's playing 1. Basically, you're just going to play this type of a melody along with your bass line. So let's coordinate them. Pinch this 6 and the 2, follow through on the 1, alternate, play the 2 alone, play the 6 and the 1 together, and finish with the 4. Okay, let's talk about that again. Okay, pinch the 6 and the 2, follow through on the 1, alternate to the 4th string with your thumb. Strike the 2nd string with your index finger, then getting the 6th and the 1st together, and finish with the bass. Okay, so here's how that should sound. Okay? In some ways it's easier than the Rolling E blues. And so we're going to do that. 1, 2, 1 measure. Now we could play that 4 measures of D before we go to our G chord, but we're going to make a switch. We'll just do a quick change to G. He does that on Statesboro Blues. He does a quick change on there. So we're going to go to this G7th chord. Now, typically a G7th chord looks like this. On the 1st, 5th, and 6th strings. But remember, we have a drop D here. So we're not going to play the 6th string when we are playing the G7th chord. We're going to alternate between the 5 and the 4. So, which is basically between a B and a D. And our little finger here is then going to go on, it's going to go on this D here, and that adds a little richness to this chord. As opposed to just G7th like this, we have that D in there. Okay, so it's, so what we're actually going to do is we're going to pinch the 5 and the 2 together, follow through on the 1, alternate to the 4th string, strike the 2 alone, then get the 5 and the 1 together and alternate. So you'll recognize this is a very similar thing to what we were doing on the 1 chord. Basically, we're still just going with our index and 2nd finger while we're playing the bass line. Now in this case, the bass line is just going to be 5 and 4, 5 and 4. Okay, so it'll be we'll do that twice, and we're going to go back to the D now and play the same thing we did before. And again. So we're playing the first 8 measure of this song, so it's going to go like this. Switch to G7th, back to D. Okay, now on the 4th measure, we're going to throw this D7th in here. And we're still going to use the same technique we did before, just playing between 2nd and 1st string. Okay, now to a G7th here. And again. And back to D. And one more time on D. Okay, now in the 9th measure, what we're going to do is we're going to play this double wham here. Basically, it looks like a D minor chord, but it doesn't have this 3rd note. Basically, at this point, we're just looking at the A and the F here. Okay, so it's going to be, and we're going to alternate between the 6 and the 4. Okay, then what you're going to do is take the ring finger and put it down here on the 8th fret and do the same thing alternating between 5 and 4, or 6 and 4. So that sounds like this. And that's going to take up 1 measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Willie McTell does this little D run that is common even in folk music now, and it's where you go from D to D, C to D, B, and then typically you might go A, G, but he just goes D, D, C, D, B, D, F. Okay, so let's look at how you make that. The ring finger goes here on the D, and that is the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and alternate between the thumb and the 2nd finger, in this case going 4th and 2nd. Okay, then this 2nd finger here on the left hand is going to play the C, and we're going to alternate that with this D on the 2nd string. Okay, then the index finger is going to come down here and play the B and alternate that with the D. and then the second finger is just going to play the single F and not alternate it with anything. So it goes like this. Okay, and we come back to a D, and we play that for a half a measure. D, then a half measure of G7th, half measure of D again, and a half measure of this A. Ah, what was that? That's we slid that A into place here. So all we're actually doing is playing like this, but we're sliding in. So the only note that you hear slid is actually the second string, because the A bass is still in place here. And alternate. Let's take a look at this as a 12-bar blues, and let me guide you through it. We have D, G7, D, D7th, then G7th twice, back to D, and repeat. Double wham, 1, 2, bass line. D and G7th and D and A. Okay, one more time without any talk. Now in the next lesson, we're going to take this song a little step further and make it sound just a little snazzier, a little bit bluesier. Okay? See you next time.